Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast with YieldNodes Legal. I got Jesus Soldier here on the call and Michael Frazzi, and we figured that it's been a little bit quiet. We just got the web platform released, and got the law enforcement report complete, and it's been a few days since an update. So we just wanted to walk through a few topics that are top of mind for folks, and get everybody's live opinions and get that out to you. Anything before we kick off, guys?
No, I think it's fine.
Just
Cool.
hope anyone in the US had a good Thanksgiving, and looking forward to just touching base today.
Yeah, actually, so I was out for a few days, as people probably noticed. Hopefully, if you're in the US, you got some time out with family as well. I took Thanksgiving and most of the weekend off. So hope others were able to do the same. Let's go ahead and hop in. So we've got law enforcement. This is a topic that a lot of people have been chatting about. A lot of people are curious about. What exactly are we allowed to say? So I had a interview with law enforcement and a report. Michael, I believe you did too. What can you say about your experience?
Yeah, so I'm not allowed to say exactly which parties were all on the call. And in terms of the opposite of that, in terms of what I'm not allowed to say, what I am allowed to say is, based on my experience, they were taking it extremely seriously. It went for a number of hours with a number of different parties. And I presented essentially a companion presentation to what Levi presented the day before, where anything that wasn't able to be crammed in his multiple-hour presentation, I was able to cram in mine here. And overall, it was very thorough, and it was definitely very reassuring on my end. But in terms of exact parties that we were meeting with, or next steps, or even the exact agencies or law enforcement branches involved, we're unfortunately not allowed to say at this time.
Yeah, and mine was pretty similar. I think the only details I could add, the call was about three and a half hours for me, and excuse me, it was largely a interview format. I did have a ton of data, as I put in the Discord. Being in the position I'm in, I received a lot of data and a lot of messages from a lot of people, and also took quite a bit of time off to handle and parse all of that data. So I was able to put together a couple different slide decks on various topics. I was able to present all of the blockchain information that people had sent to us and that we had prepared, not just what we put out in previous videos, but every report that we thought was helpful or necessary. So I felt pretty good about it. I felt like it was pretty extensive. They may come back to me for a follow-up after digesting it, because that's a lot of information for people to take in. But
Right.
How'd you feel about yours afterwards?
Yeah, I felt about the same. I definitely got the sense as well that there will likely be a follow-up, just due to how much was covered, how quickly. But mine was similarly an interview format. Went well over 2 hours here, maybe 2.5, and was very similar. I spent quite a bit of time beforehand preparing a number of reports, doing my best not to double dip into what Levi presented based on some of the slides I had seen, just to make sure we cover as wide of a range as material as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had a number of different slides, both things we've been able to verify at this time, as well as just some observations I've seen. And then, based on my experience in the blockchain industry and working on a number of projects here, how that differs versus what I have seen in the number of years I've been working in the industry, as well as in the finance industry in general.
So is yours, I take it, because we actually haven't had a chance to talk prior to this about the details of it, I don't think, but was yours mostly focused on blockchain then, or can you say
Yes.
sort of?
Yeah, so
Okay.
mine was mostly focused on blockchain. There was maybe 20 minutes, a half an hour, where it was more of a standard interview format.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of it was me walking through blockchain reports and comparing that to some other examples of how I would expect things to look in comparison, and as well as just going through things in chronological order. And it kind of wrapped up just by answering general questions and going over some more general information.
Yeah. Yeah. See, mine I think was similar, but probably had a lot less focus on the blockchain side. Mine was more telling my story and understanding of masternoding and kind of history with cryptocurrency, and then also how that then led into my investment in YieldNodes, and then talking a lot about the advertisements of YieldNodes and the risk disclosure. We went through that in pretty extreme detail. And why I invested and how much I did, and et cetera, and what my understanding was, these kinds of things. We then did touch on some blockchain reports, but obviously not as extensive as yours, because I don't have the training that you do or the experience that you do there. But mine was more as a participant in the crypto space and my understanding of that side. What were my takeaways from there? So you already mentioned that you felt like they were taking it pretty serious.
Yeah, 100%. I felt, I felt like I had full and undivided attention for a lot of it. There were people coming and going throughout, or at least cameras turning off and on throughout. So I'm sure they were running around doing a multiple of things, but there was enough people on the call that there was always quite a lot of attentiveness at any given time, and I felt very confident that everything was absorbed and that any further questions I'll be able to address directly as well moving forward.
Interesting. Yeah. Mine, I think all the cameras are pretty much steady, and the participants were definitely steady as well. Maybe it was a different time of day or something for them. I don't know. I'm not even sure that we had the same group of people, because obviously we haven't talked to each other about the details of the people either. But in my case, I can say that they definitely took it very serious as well. There were all the right people that I would hope to have there, and all the right questions asked and all the right information presented.
I agree, and all the most key people were on the call the whole time. It seemed like some auxiliary people were hopping in and out, but the core group of people that was there at the start was there at the end as well.
Cool.
I think what is important to mention is that, of course, you had not the time to present all the informations that we have, because we've
Right.
spent like with several persons weeks to find all of these things together, but you have uploaded and given them all informations that we have. So even if you only presented examples of every evidences or things that we might that we think which might be evidences, everything is uploaded. So there went tons of data to them, which they can compare to the examples that you showed.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Even though we've been doing some of our own blockchain analysis and collecting addresses and letting people know, hey, if you report your account, that will go to law enforcement and help them with their investigation, et cetera. The bulk of the firepower, if you want to put it that way, or the hope for investigation, we're hoping that law enforcement agencies would take that on, because obviously they have way more powerful tools and a lot more people dedicated to this kind of thing full time. And so I did that. I'm sure Michael did that as well. I uploaded anything that would have been helpful to understand the situation, anything that people had posted in any of our research channels, any of the conclusions or images or bits of data, the legal summary document that Kay and Mavericks put together, that was 20 something pages, that was uploaded as well. Blockchain addresses, everything, absolutely everything was uploaded. And so it'll take them some time to process through that, but should there be any path that should be taken for justice there, they certainly have what they need for it, and they'll follow up if they need more. It's a good point. I also want to point out the law enforcement path is really to find out if there in fact was anything criminal done, and to have the proper justice for that. That's different than the path with the attorneys or the legal path. The path with the attorneys is about trying to get funds back. And actually that's another topic that people were very interested in, is about the timeline for the attorney, what's next, and when is it going to happen. Yeah, someone want to bite that one off?
Yeah, I could do that. So as we announced, we will, in the next few days or even 2 or 3 weeks, we'll publicly announce 2-week window until the registration for the legal step will be closed. because to this closed group, which of course has to be verified on our web platform and check the box, I want to take part in a legal step. This does not mean that after these 2 weeks you automatically do, but then will the time close to be part of the group, which we're speaking to what our plans are, and then you can finally decide if we want to take part in it or not. We still need some days or even 2 or 3 weeks to figure out the perfect process, or the perfect ground for it with the lawyer. And as soon as this is done, we will give the two-week countdown and then start it. So it will be a question of weeks until we can start the action. But this does not mean that in this week's doesn't happen anything. We are preparing a lot of things in the background and already started things, which doesn't matter if we are 50 or 500 people later. We can already take the first steps behind closed doors. So this is, I think, regarding the timeline.
Yeah. So just to recap, we will need a number of weeks, unknown right now, but let's say 2, 3, 4 weeks, something like that, to finish preparing all of the legal steps and details with the attorney and some other things that we need to do more quietly, let's say. After that's done, we will then be ready to tell people, hey, we are now ready to start the 2-week window where this is your final chance to register for legal action. People who have verified their account, meaning they've signed up on the website, YieldNodes.legal, and they have put in their Discord name. You can go over to the Discord server. There's a verification channel where you can get verified. People who have done this process, they will get some better details about who the attorney is and what exactly the legal process is and how it's going to work. And again, this will be about, let's say 2 to 4 weeks from now, roughly speaking. And at that time, you will then be able to opt in or opt out of any legal action, like we've always said. As Jesus Soldier mentioned, there's a checkbox in your profile on YieldNodes.legal that says, I want to participate in legal action. You just need to click that checkbox and hit save, and then that will mark your profile as wanting to participate in that legal action. And you'll have all the information that you need at that time to make that decision. We will operate for a couple of weeks from that point, where there's then a cutoff for registration, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's something more like 4 to 6 weeks, roughly speaking, timeline. Obviously, we will announce everything on our social platforms and chat channels, and whichever one you are in, but it'll be on Reddit and Telegram and Discord and YouTube and Twitter and etc. Okay, that makes good sense. What about people have been asking about jurisdiction? I'm in the UK. Is this going to help me or people all over the world? I think we have 70 countries or so.
Yeah. I think it's 69, but anyway, of course, as we are not representing a specific region on the earth or whatever, we will find a way. It makes it a little bit more complicated, but we will find a way how we can represent everyone and take a legal step for everyone, not only for people from a special country. Yeah.
Yep. And I just want to reassure to everyone that this has been obviously one of the first things that we thought of, and one of the first things that the attorney asked as well, and had proposed some ideas for is, how do you deal with so many people in so many countries who all have this claim? And then, if we're successful in recovering funds, how do you actually get it to all those proper people? There are some ideas about how to handle that. Excuse me. And I'm feeling fairly good about those right now. I don't want to speak overly confident because we haven't seen 100% of the plan put together, but there's at least a known path for how to get these funds to people in multiple jurisdictions. And I also see a lot of questions around, hey, you can't sue them because ABC, or hey, you can't raise a claim in this particular country because their office is actually in Hong Kong, or no, it's in Malta, or hey, they live in Germany, and on and on. All of those points are heard and they are understood. I want to let everybody know that. the reason I haven't responded to them with any kind of concern, or have kind of just, you know, continually reassured people not to worry about that aspect, is because the paths that have been proposed to us by legal counsel are not affected by those concerns. And when I say that, my confidence is at 50% that we could possibly get some funds back. That is considering the fact that they have an office in that YieldNodes has their registration in Hong Kong, but they have the Malta hub, and then yet some of them live in Germany. Even with those conditions and with everybody participating in multiple jurisdictions, my confidence is still 50% that we would be able to get some funds back and get those funds out to people. Once we get to the legal details portion and we can share this information with more people, I think it'll make sense to more people. But I just want everybody to know that we have heard those concerns. We're not naive or blindsided by them, but the current plans are set to work around those concerns.
Yeah, correctly.
Cool. So yeah, what are next steps people can take from here? I guess we kind of already mentioned it, but verification of your account. Anything else?
Yeah, well, verification of the account, and also our new platform with your account in it gives you the possibility to submit your deposit addresses to us. So after me manually adding 200 addresses the last days, I would really appreciate if people could do the deposit field in their own accounts on our website. Of course, if you are not able to, you can still DM me then, but this should only be the way if for any reason the other way is not working.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would
So
almost
just
like
to confirm that point, so we do have an option now to pull deposit addresses directly from YieldNode.legal. It is no longer just pulling withdrawal addresses. They have an option to add deposit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you manually type it into your account, but this is the like string copy, and this would be the same like inserting it into a DM to me. Now you're inserting it just in your profile on YieldNodes Legal.
Perfect. Yeah, just wanted to make sure we got that in here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have this pulled up. So here's YieldNodes.legal. Just head over there and click this little drop down and then sign in. Once you're signed in, you will see this My Data section. And actually, this should be your landing page as well after you sign in. On this page, there's multiple tabs here to manage your data. This is what we've always told people would be coming. I don't have my extension data in here yet. It's on a different profile, but if you've submitted your extension data, you will see that here. This is what we're talking about right now, deposit addresses. The extension is only able to pull your withdrawal addresses. So on YieldNodes, if you went into the withdrawal section and you added a wallet that you wanted to take withdrawals out of YieldNodes and into your wallet, we have those. What we don't have are addresses that you deposited into in YieldNodes. So that's what we want here. These would be YieldNodes' address where you sent funds into, and this will help us with tracing. If you're not exactly sure how to do this, there's a show help link right here, and it will give you a step-by-step. But essentially, you're going to go to any wallet or platform that you use to send money to YieldNodes. You're going to look at those transactions and see the destination address, the address that you sent to, and then you're going to come in here and enter it. So you might say something like, you know, Coinbase first deposit, and that would have been Bitcoin. And then there's some address here that you would add. You would hit submit, wait a moment, and then here it is in my list. And I can add as many of these as I want. If you've messed one up, you can just hit this little trash can here and it'll remove it. That's what we need right now is more deposit addresses. So make sure that you go through all of your deposits in YieldNodes that you made and enter in all of the addresses that you sent to for that. Anything you guys want to add to this?
Oh, no, I think it's perfectly explained, but this leads us to the point, what are we doing with these addresses? Of course, we're tracking withdrawals and deposits, and we've already published the Ponzi video, and we've already published some more things into our Discord, but of course, bear with us that we don't show our full hand. We have many, many more examples. And I think we prepared one.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we can hop over and check this out. Yeah.
So maybe we give the people 15 seconds to think about what could this be.
Yeah, so if you've seen our other charts that we've published, this is another chart. Lots of little wallets here, but yeah, what kind of transaction activity could this be? Well, let's actually zoom in over here. So there's a YieldNodes Legal user 197 withdrawal wallet 5 here, Coinbase. I can say this is my withdrawal. This is a wallet that I used on Coinbase for taking money out of YieldNodes. However, what we're tracing in this case is actually a withdrawal out of BuyRake. So I took a withdrawal from BuyRake. Let's just hit this transaction here and see of a little over $5,000. Actually, it's $5,600 on August 26th. And I withdrew that money out of BuyRake into my Coinbase account. It happened to be the same Coinbase account that I used for taking withdrawals from YieldNodes. So that's why it's named in this chart. So I do want to clarify, this chart is not showing YieldNodes. This chart is showing BuyRake. But what's crazy about this is to see where these funds came from. We see this transaction over here came from this wallet.
Again, just for clean out, SU means single use. So this wallet were only used one time. Yes,
that's what we mean by SU here, single use. So this is a excuse me, this is a BuyRake wallet. And this BuyRake wallet was set up for one single purpose, one single use. You can see its first transaction was on August 26th. That's the date of my withdrawal. Its last transaction was on August 26th. That's the date of my withdrawal. And you can see here that it had a single incoming transaction and then 2 outgoing, one to my wallet and then one with the change. It's also kind of crazy that it sent, what is that, 54,000 point, let's see, that's roughly.
I know, it's 54 Bitcoins.
Correct. Yeah. And then I'm doing times 16,000 for the current price. So that's currently 900,000, something like that. At the time, it was a lot more. I want to say it was in excess of $1 million. Yeah, it was in excess of 1.1 million, almost 1.2 million. So again, I went into BuyRake. I had requested about $5,000 out of BuyRake. This is what BuyRake's internals did in order to fund this withdrawal. And it set up this address here, single use, just to fund my withdrawal. And if we say, okay, well, then where did this one get funds from? Well, this one got its funds from this address. And again, this is a single use on August 26th. It was set up just for my withdrawal. And it also didn't get funds from BuyRake directly. It got its funds from this wallet. And so on and so forth we go. Every one of these wallets that says single use was set up just for this single transaction to receive its funds and send them all to the next wallet just for my withdrawal. So we've got 3 wallets here. And then just prior to this wallet, it then comes from 2 separate wallets, both of which are single use. Those fork off into 2 more wallets, which are both single use. So at this point, we have 4 wallets at 4 degrees of separation.
And I'd like to just remind everyone too, real quick, this is Bitcoin. So this is a slow and expensive process to bounce it through this many wallets.
Yeah. How much time are we talking per transaction?
I mean, 15 minutes if you're lucky. I mean, you know, it could be a little less than that, but I'd say 15 minutes on average.
Okay. And then,
but Michael, just out of your experience, and I know it's a little bit ironic question, but how common is it to make for one transaction like 50 single-use wallets in 24 different steps to use it just to pay out one user? Is this something you see often from the exchanges, or?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. This was actually so absurd when I first found it. I mean, I can't point to any particular reason in general or any particular accusations. This is the most absurd tracing I've ever seen for a withdrawal, to the point where I'm likely going to have this framed and hung on my office wall at the end of this process, because it is just so interesting to me how much this little $5,000 transfer moved down the line in order to be paid out to Levi.
Yeah. And again, if I take a wallet like this one right here in the middle and I expand all possible incoming addresses and outgoing addresses, there's nothing else there. So that was it. I just expanded this to show all addresses that have paid into this wallet over its life and all that it has paid out to. So it literally received its funds from this other single use, paid them out to this other wallet, which is single use. This wallet received them from this one that was created at the same time. So 2 single use wallets are funding this one. And both of these funnel downstream through 2 other wallets just to consolidate here. And this just continues on and on and
24 steps. I
yeah,
remember
actually,
the night. I remember the
far
night
more.
when we found that. I remember the night when we found that, and we were like going step to step back, and we were like, "Wow, another one!"
Yeah, well, I mean, because if you can see these little numbers up here, this is -14. We're 14 degrees of separation from my withdrawal request, and it's still creating single-use wallets. So that means they created a wallet, they sent it to another wallet. Okay, that's 1 degree. They created a third wallet, sent it to the third wallet. Okay, that's 2 degrees of separation. On and on and on and on and on. We're at 14 degrees of separation, and by the time you get back here, they're still branching these off into single-use wallets. Like this wallet at 15 degrees of separation is created on August 26th. It last sent on August 26th, and its only transaction is 1 in, and then these out. And actually, this one says it has 2 outs. Let me expand this just to see. Okay, yeah, so it goes to yet another wallet. So all of these wallets created just to funnel money down toward the right, on and on and on and on and on and on they go. And I will say, like, we didn't even finish expanding this. We stopped at, this one's 24 degrees of separation. And if I look at this wallet, it's still on August 26th. So who knows how far this actually goes. But here we are 24 degrees of separation away. I did count roughly between 40 and 50 wallets from this left-hand side all the way down to this right-hand side, just for all of these to consolidate themselves into eventually a single-use wallet that pays me my 5,000, and then a change wallet that takes the 1.1 million and goes off with that as well. So it's
just, let's say, how much is like the transaction fee for one transaction? Around about like $3 to $5.
That's a good estimate a lot of the time.
So let's say
let's say they paid $150 to $250 just to create this, and waited like days.
Yeah, I mean, actually, how long would it take with 20? Gosh, let's see, how many degrees of separation was this? 24 degrees of separation. And Michael, is it going to be 15 minutes for every degree of separation, or 15 minutes per wallet?
Oh, per every
address.
single transaction. I mean, Bitcoin's a notoriously slow chain unless they're sending it on something like Lightning Network, which we don't see signs of here. But you know, even being very optimistic and saying each transaction only takes about 5 minutes, that is still a significant amount of time for a system like this. And I've just in thinking through why a system might be set up like this, the first thing that comes to mind is that maybe it's an automatic process where each different step is programmed to do something else. I mean, Binance doesn't have this many steps when it comes to their internal system to pay everybody out. It's a kind of situation where the only real situation where I've seen this many degrees of separation for a simple transaction was for obfuscation techniques, where people are trying to keep things obscured down the line. Whether or not this is what this is, I'm not sure. It's just the only real place I've seen something like this, and I've certainly never seen an exchange go through so much headache and spend so much gas fees and spend so much downtime, especially for a $5,000 transaction. I mean, it would be one thing if this was $10 million and it was being pulled from all across the network. But in this case, I can't really think of any real reason why this would make sense in a normal business setting.
Right. Well, and the other crazy thing is, like, not only does it not make sense why there would be so many addresses, especially passing funds between each other like this, but then to just immediately merge them back down.
Yeah,
it's not like this is truly hiding anything, especially, like, you know, we do see, like, okay, there's a BuyRake hot wallet over here, which is BuyRake owned,
right,
and
which seems to be where some of that money that was eventually paid to you originated. at
Yeah,
least to
because
some
this, you know,
degree.
sends downstream this way to the right, right? And here we're 8 degrees of separation. It goes into this, let's call it a funnel here, I guess. And this gets mixed up with other single-use wallets and eventually funnels down to one wallet. The only other path of funding comes on this top line, which goes way back here. But all of these also get their funding from the same Binance hot wallet. And so this is just
Yeah,
like,
just sorry for interrupting you, but could you zoom in a little bit more? Because I made in the first days that I used this tool the mistake. I thought everything is going from left to right, but this is not the case. This hot
right.
wallet, you can see the arrows. Is going. These transactions are going to the left, so to the minus 24 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
everything is funded from this one wallet. So it's going to the very left, and from the very left in 24 steps to the very right again.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
that hot wallet, it says Byrake. I just want to confirm that is a Binance hot wallet.
correct. Yeah. This is Binance. We just marked it Byrake because it's used in Byrake activity. But yeah, this is a Binance owned wallet. And to, you know, Jesus Soldier's point, you can see all these transactions going to the left as well as to the right. And so what's happening? Can you guys see my cursor, by the way?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So what's happening is Binance is funding all these wallets way back. Let's call it upstream. And then each of these is funneling down through a huge series of single-use wallets just to eventually consolidate all the funds into this one wallet. But it does it in both directions. It does it upstream this way, and then it also does it, or let's call it downstream to the right here, and it also does it upstream to several of these wallets, which, you know, why you would fund this wallet just to consolidate it here, and then a few transactions later, 5-6 transactions later, fund a couple more wallets that also consolidate in on the way down. I mean, even for obfuscation, it's not really hiding anything. It's just bizarre. We had a lot of laughs when every time we would click expand and it would be another single use, because this probably took like an hour to expand all these out. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, just that it's definitely strange. It's definitely strange, and I would definitely be open to any explanation regarding it, but I would also be interested to hear what justification there is to make this take so much longer than it otherwise would be. Like, you know, for instance, when you're sending or receiving funds from, say, Coinbase, it takes a little longer than it would be if you're sending and receiving directly from a self-custody wallet like MetaMask or something similar, because you're going from one wallet to another. Yeah, Coinbase does a little bouncing around, other exchanges do, but this is such an extreme example of that I'd love to hear an example of why it goes through this many processes. But I know that if I were running a business, this certainly seems like a good way to blow through a lot of time and a lot of transaction fees that otherwise wouldn't need to be dealt with otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, also you have to see, like we said, it's $250 in transaction fees, and we even like didn't expand it to the very left. Who says that we're not coming out at 50 or 200 or 100? So
Right.
let's only say we have $250 of fee for this payout. This means 5% of the whole payout sum. You requested $5,000, and $250 are 5% of the whole payout, just in fees to let it go through dozens of transactions. This is very, very, very ununderstandable.
Yeah, and like
yeah.
so this is a Coinbase wallet, and actually haven't even done this, but I'm gonna punch this in anyways. We'll see if this ends up being usable. But when I've looked at my other withdrawals from other systems, I've never seen, honestly, any more than like 1 or 2 steps. And I'm curious if this happens to have any addresses listed here from Coinbase. I hope it does. Otherwise, it's be a useless detour. But okay, so we don't see it there directly. But I should pull a chart separately to show, maybe in a future video we'll do that or something, of what this looks like on a different exchange. it absolutely looks nothing like this when you're usually taking something out of an exchange. There might be like one wallet, maybe two in between, but both will be labeled by this breadcrumb system as,
Yeah, and it'll hit a hot wallet, and then from there it's like, whatever the exchange did with it before that, it's harder to trace back that exact transaction.
Yep.
In this case, we can trace this specific transaction so far back before we get to any sort of hot wallet where something like that is no longer possible. So definitely a unique situation here.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. So nothing obviously definitive here. We're not insinuating anything criminal. We're not, pointing at any funds here that are being hidden or anything. We just thought that this was super strange and kind of hilarious, and wanted to ask people like, hey, do you have any idea what was going on here, or YieldNodes, if you would like to
maybe you
explain.
can think of something we cannot exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as I said in the beginning, we don't want to show our hand when it's coming to blockchain evidences and blockchain findings. I think we've showed enough with this Ponzi stream and with the things that we posted on Discord to prove that when we're saying we found something, we definitely did. So we are at the point right now, also on the advice of the attorney and even questioned by the law enforcement, not showing much more of our hand. But I think this is like also showing how much effort we are putting into this, and just a funny example of findings which will not be that relevant in any case later.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, so kind of wrapping it up here then, it's been, gosh, what has it been? 7 weeks, maybe something like that, since the freeze of funds. And I would say there was definitely some what we call fog of war in the beginning, with just so much information flying around, so many accusations flying around, people's emotions were high, people questioning things. It was hard to make sense of quite a bit. Now that things have somewhat settled and it's been a little bit longer, what do we think about YieldNodes? What's just kind of our personal view and takeaway from knowing what we know now at this point? And maybe I'll have Michael start.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is a fairly unique situation. There are some signs in here that would lead me to believe that there is some kind of, if not actual, if not actual intended criminal activity going on, then perhaps some accidental examples of that. I'm not going to make any accusations till things are able to be completely proven one way or another. This is just based off of my opinions. But it seems like the more I look, I very rarely find what I would expect to find in whatever situation I'm looking into. For example, we've spent a lot of time focusing on YieldNodes blockchain tracing. I could do an entirely different video about buy rake, similar to what Levi just showed here. I'm not entirely sure if whoever was involved in this project meant to handle things in a way that was improper, but there's definitely some signs that, in my opinion, things were not necessarily always handled in the best way that they could have been, and definitely warrants some further investigation and just digging into that further to conclusively prove things one way or another. But there is certainly enough that's been found to pique my interest as well as the interest of law enforcement, and nobody has at any point contradicted the findings with what I would consider to be legitimate business activity or an approved accounting method or anything of that nature that might prove this to all just be one big misunderstanding, which it very well might be. It just is. There's certainly a lot of steps that got to that misunderstanding in that case, and I'm just at this point focusing on understanding it as best as I can and refining my opinion before any accusations are able to be made on either side.
Makes sense. What about you, Jesus Soldier?
Well, I think for me, it's good summarized by Michael. I only want to add, for me, this is not even 1% an emotional thing. I did an rational investment with the facts that I had at this time. And every decision that I do in any investment areas are rational and objective in the end. So for me, of course, it will be interesting to know if they did something on purpose, if they were criminals from the beginning, or if they are even criminals or not. We don't know that, but for me, that does not matter, because they had several times where they could have decided to act like a normal businessman would do. And I think I've written that often, but the normal way to to go forward is, if you cannot pay your liabilities, you declare to be bankrupt. A third party will come in, have a look into your books if you like made something criminal or not, and if not, your assets get liquidated, the investors get paid what's left, and the book is closed. I would, of course, not be happy to if this would the way that it went, but I would definitely be sure that no one tricked me, because the third party looks into it, I get what is left, and I made a highly risky investment, and in this case, maybe I burned my hands. So I will know maybe better in future. But at latest at this point, they decided to not go the right way. They decided to freeze my funds, which are they not allowed to. They are not allowed to take my money and make something with it I don't want or I don't invest it in. And they are still keeping me from withdrawing my money. And this is the latest point where they went from the right path to the wrong path. And now I want authorities to look into it to see if there were criminal actions or if they only messed up. And I want my usual rights as an investor to withdraw my money. I don't want more and I don't want less. If they made something criminal, of course, I want that they serve justice for that, or that there's justice served to them. But for me, this is a completely unemotional thing. And we will see, or the authorities and the courts will decide what was criminal or not. I'm not more happy if they were criminals or not. I will just be happy if authorities proved one or the other, and when I get my funds back, which is my right as an investor.
I agree.
As
I would
long as
like to
there is no,
stress. I'm sorry, continue.
as long as they are not bankrupt. Of course, if they are bankrupt, it's not my right as an investor to withdraw immediately. But as long as they did not declare to be bankrupt, it's my right to withdraw the money that belongs and is owned by me and not by them.
You were going to add something, Michael?
Yeah, just the fact, I think that was a great point to add, where this is definitely a situation where as much bias is being left out as possible. As a researcher, it is in my job description to try to go into any situation with as little confirmation bias as possible. And instead of trying to prove whatever my preconceived notions are right, it is trying to go into this and prove either side. You know, I am looking for signs of YieldNodes telling the truth and of operating in a legitimate method, as much as I'm looking for the opposite. And regardless of what people would be predisposed to look for in this situation, of course, it is hard to stay completely neutral. I'm certainly doing my best job with that, as I do in all the research I work on, and I take that part of it very seriously. And just moving forward as well here, I think just continuing that effort. I believe that kind of the further things go on here and the more information we collect, the more we're able to prove that on one side or the other. But it's not like at any point, you know, I will happily present information if anything comes to light that seems to imply opposite of what we are, of some of the rabbit holes we're following at the moment. That is just as important as anything else. At this case, it just so happens everything is leaning the direction it is.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I'll kind of give my takeaway as well. You know, I look at it from the standpoint of what was advertised and what did I invest and why did I invest it? And then what were the expectations? What were the, you know, the promises or the guarantees versus what happened? And for me, you know, when the website advertising YieldNodes said, this is not an investment, this is a server rental program. And when it said that we have other income streams, not just master noding, you know, when they were asked if this is basically a master noding or, you know, coin selling operation, they said yes and no. So, you know, we own HelioBank. Also, they own BuyRake, which is based on the same technology. And they also own the Sapphire project, which had its own store, still has its own store, where you could purchase actual goods and products from there. And you could also spend Sapphire on other platforms like Amazon and other places. That gave me confidence that this was not just a speculative crypto investment, but this is investing in a startup. And in other interviews, this was also claimed by Steve that, hey, this is more like a startup that everybody participates in. And if anything were to ever happen where everything comes crashing down, we would have assets to sell. We can sell offices. He said, we can sell solar panels, we can sell, etc. And so I like that because I'm not one for speculative investments where you're just putting in money because chart is going up and you try to sell it before everybody else does. That's a foolish thing to do. But YieldNodes claimed to have a actual business model where they had hardware, they were providing a service to blockchain infrastructure and supporting that infrastructure with masternodes. They also made some other guarantees there that made me feel very comfortable. I had tried masternoding myself to understand it. I think I did 4 or 5 tokens. I had 5 or 6 masternodes running, and I kept meticulous track, being an analytical person, of all of my transactions in and out, both of purchasing my collateral as well as selling off the reward tokens that came to me. And I saw that the collateral, due to inflation and sell pressure, the collateral lost value faster than the tokens made money coming in. At least that was true for most of the 4 or 5 tokens that I was masternoding. And I thought to myself, well, somehow they're able to make money doing it. Maybe it's because they have 19, 20, 21 chains that they're masternoding. Maybe it's because they also get income from Byrake and Heliobank and the Sapphire Store and on, and they're constantly adding new services. They later bought the mobile app Flitz, which did have a paid option in the app. So a Decenemy team member later clarified to me that it was their understanding that Flitz didn't actually make them any money, but at least it was in a newsletter that they were buying this. And so to me, that very much looked like a startup that had other sources of income that was much safer to invest in than just speculating on the tokens. The other thing that made me very comfortable, very comfortable, was that YieldNodes took, when I started, 15% of profits to cover the liability of the masternode stake. So that's the collateral. So I felt extremely comfortable knowing that my deposit was in stable token or in a stable fiat, rather, euros. Profits were always made against the euros. They claimed, quote, we can pay back deposits at any time. So that was also reassuring to me. The fact that they were setting aside 15% to cover the liability for the masternode stakes in case that ever went down, that was reassuring. And the fact that they had all these other income streams and all these other assets, I felt pretty comfortable investing. And so I did at an amount that was appropriate to that. The reason I was shocked with the October 11th email is there was also a guarantee on the website. If the profits ever fell below 5% for 3 months, 3 consecutive months, then they would return our server rental payment, which is our deposits. So my expectation was at some point, their profits are going to fall, and they're going to fall for 1 month. We'll get a newsletter about it. They're going to fall for a second month. We'll get a newsletter about it. And maybe they fall for a third month and they pay back people's deposits, or they introduce some other program or something like that people can opt into if they want. Instead, what happened was there was a fear that Urs had that they might not be able to cash out their masternode stakes. They might not be able to get their value back out of this system that they created. Therefore, we're not out of money and we haven't lost profit yet. But because we're worried that might happen, we are going to seize your funds. And by the way, we're now going to shift our model and start doing something different. And I understand Decenemy was explained to people prior. I understand, real use cases were always part of the plan, etc. What was never part of the plan, what was never part of the risk disclosure, was seizing my funds against my will and forcing me to participate in a new system that I want nothing to do with. It was never a risk that your funds might be converted to an NFT, for example, which is the case now. They also prevented their actual terms from being upheld. Namely, they take liability for stakes and they will pay us back if profits fall. They didn't allow that to happen, which they should have in my mind. And so this is what felt criminal to me. And I still believe has to be at the least immoral, non-standard, if not possibly criminal, is saying, here's the advertised program with all these things. Yeah, well, we have to throw all that out the window now, even though you signed up under that, even though you gave us lots of money under this program. We need to throw this out because we have good reasons and we're going to do this other thing. But we're definitely going to seize your funds to continue doing this other thing. That's not okay to me, even if the reasons are logical, which they are. They have logical reasons. If the trading volume is what they claim, if the pricing is what they claim, if they're only to return 10% if they were to sell things, it would make logical sense that they would want to try to do a different thing. I don't care if it's logical. It's not the terms that I agreed to, and it's not the risks that I agreed to. I agreed to masternoding risks around regulations, hacking, coin volatility, with the understanding that they cover the masternode stakes, so they're responsible for that. I agreed to that. I never agreed to the risk that URs would get scared and freeze my funds. That's essentially what happened. And so I'm not willing to accept a different explanation for that still to this day. And so that's where I would like legal and law enforcement to look at it, only because YieldNodes has obviously refused to communicate and try to resolve things. So my hope is that through legal and law enforcement, some portion of our funds can actually be recouped. And this kind of leads us into the next point. What about emergency withdrawals? That's a way to receive funds back. What are your thoughts on emergency withdrawals, Jesus Soldier?
I would I'm sorry, just answer one thing that came to my mind after your last very well point, very well said point, sorry. I've seen like comments from the official YieldNodes or even on the YieldNodes website. Of course, to separate that, on the one side are people saying, oh, this Levi guy only want the best for him or for YieldNodes Legal and so on. Of course, I mean, if you're like, if you're the leader of a group, of course you want the best for this group. If you're the mayor of San Francisco, of course you're doing the best for the people in San Francisco and not for the people in New York. So if they really want to separate, and this was never our intention, if they want to separate the investors into people that want out and will not accept that their funds are freezed, and investors that want to stay in and can accept that their funds are freezed because they are willing to, or they believe in the new concept or whatever, this is completely fine. But why do you accuse someone of the logical thing that you only want the best for his group as the leader? And the second thing is, Urs, as a businessman, should definitely not take side of one of these groups. Usually he should be at both these groups, because he's always saying, I only want the best for all of us. I only want to do the best for all YieldNodes investors. If this would be the case, and if this would be reality, you would want to do the best for all investors and all groups in your investors. And our group might only be 500 or 50,000 people. But if you're saying all investors, you have to mean all investors. You should not take part of any group or take the opinion or side of any group and speak in their behavior and say the other ones are devils. He should make sure, and this you would do at every publicly listed company, you will have group of investors which maybe does not like you or are very critical or are even filing legal cases daily against you as the CEO because they're thinking you're bringing the company in the wrong direction. You still have to negotiate with them and still have to try to find solutions for these investors too. So what he's doing, he's not searching for the best option for all investors. He is searching for the best solution for the investors that like his ideas and just cutting off all other investors. And this is not how it's working. So this has nothing to do with Levi or whoever wants only the best for him and only the best for his group. Of course, we want the best for our group, but this is not meant to damage anyone else. This is our view on the topic, and this is why we are stand in for our rights. We are not here to damage someone or because we don't like the others. We're just here to stand our ground for our rights, for our definitely existing rights.
Yeah.
And this is an important point for me that I wanted to clarify because I've read that from time to time. And if you think about it 2 minutes, you should definitely see that this is a pure logical thing.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that as well, because I've thought a lot about this, and it's raised against me as if it's some kind of moral mistake that I'm making about worrying about myself first and my family. Every person in the world, on the planet, and I think this is truly the right way to be morally, should care about your own self and family first, right? I mean, if my entire town is starving, I think I first have a duty to make sure that my wife and children are not starving before I help my neighbor. It's a good thing to help my neighbor, but if I let my wife and kids starve in order to help my neighbor first, obviously I think most people would say that I've made a mistake. So first, I care about myself and my family. Even with YieldNodes, my first concern is myself and my family. Then I care about my neighbor, and so that's whoever's in my community. And then broader than that, obviously you care about the whole world, but there's only so much that you can do for the entire world, and you shouldn't sacrifice your own family or self for something that's as far reaching as the entire world that you probably can't truly affect. And so I'm approaching this the same way, just as investors who want to stay in are doing the exact same thing. They don't care about me more than themselves. They want to stay in. And then, so of course they want to tear down, my ideas or the group's ideas, and care about their own ideas, as they should. That's how it works. But the second thing that you mentioned about caring for all investors, about, Ur saying, I'm doing something that's good for all investors. Yeah, this is also not true. Urs is only doing something that he thinks is a good thing and that he agrees to. People like me or others who don't agree, who are also investors, who also don't want any part of YieldNodes, it's not the best thing. For example, it would be better for me in my life with my family to get even only 10% back and get it immediately than to wait a year for his plan. I know better what to do with my own money, and I know better my own life situation, and I can absolutely confirm the best thing for me and my family is to get the most amount of funds back as fast as possible and to have nothing to do with YieldNodes. Despite Urs thinking that he knows what's best for 50,000 individual people, he's wrong about me. And so it's only his own confirmation of his own self that makes him feel good that he says he's doing the right thing for everyone. But I want to point out, what would be the consequence of letting people out? Well, there's two groups of people who want out and people who want in. There's a stated 10% of value left. There is nothing else. So if that's true, that there's only 10% of the value left, and at this point it's probably even less than that, but at one point it was 10%, selling whatever was there to get the 10%, paying the people who want out, and letting the people who want to put their 10% back in would be the exact same thing as it is now. The people who are in now only have 10% of their value, supposedly. The only difference is there's a group of people who are being held hostage, I would say forced against their will to participate in this thing. But it doesn't make the value go up more than 10%. They're still only 10%. Yeah. Regardless if I'm here or not, it's only 10%. Me not being here doesn't make somebody else's value go down. And so it makes no sense to me why you would make it seem as if the value's there, even though on the one hand you're saying, hey, there's no value here, but by the way, we're going to lose value if we let the people leave who want to leave. This is a non-logical point. You should have sold everything that was available, including other assets and other things, and let people leave who want to leave. And if the people with the scraps left over want to come back in, they'd be in the same position as they are now. And so I agree entirely. It makes no sense there. Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just guess briefly here. I mean, I'm not a fan of the emergency withdrawal system at all. Yeah, I guess it is theoretically better than nothing, but I believe it creates a literal Hunger Game situation where, as somebody that works as a game theory advisor and a tokenomics advisor, that is about the worst way you could position people that are in not probably not the best position to be going and trying to retrieve funds. It's a situation where the people that need out the most are going to be the people that are going and trying to withdraw, and the people that are buying that stake know those people are desperate and likely have more funds than them. It is a fully one-sided agreement. To me, it's completely ridiculous. I would lose my job if I would suggest something like that to any of the projects that I'm currently working for. So I just think that that's not necessarily the right way to go. It doesn't absolve you that you offer some kind of solution there if it's not a solution that is fair or is, you know, allowing people to leave without feeling like they are being penalized yet again. I'd also just like to quickly add, just because the situation failed here doesn't mean it was inevitable that it was going to fail. I still have blockchain infrastructure that is well performing even during the bear market, just because these particular set of assets were all basically put in the same basket of assets all owned internally by YieldNodes. That necessarily wasn't something inevitable. It's something where even during a bear market, it is possible to achieve and maintain profitability with a model such as this. So just between all of those things, I don't believe it's being fair, or I don't believe it's fair whatsoever that people are being shoehorned into one particular method without any other course of action. And hey, here's emergency withdrawal if you want it. But again, that is almost insult to injury, at least as far as I view it.
Nothing to add from my side.
Great. So why don't we wrap up with, what we want to achieve from here? Where do we want to go? What are we hoping happens next? And Jesus Soldier, why don't you take it first?
Well, I've stated that at the point of our general opinion. I want to achieve that the claims of our groups are fulfilled. For me, but I fully understand everyone who likes selling at a given percentage because he's relying on the money or saying that 20% is better than possible 0% and so on. So I fully understand that. I will personally not do anything in this direction. I will, as I said before, completely unemotional. I want to solve or let law enforcement look into it. I want to open the case at the court to get the information that we are requesting since weeks. I mean, hard facts and clear proofs and not only words and blah, blah. And as at the moment where our group gets fulfilled the claim, and this is the withdrawing of the full initial investment, and we even only asked for initial and not even for the whole value amount. I'm definitely happy to shut any effort down and just to continue my life as it is without dealing daily 2 to 8 hours to YieldNodes and any searchings and so on. I'm pretty sure that we as a group will partially stay together. I mean, the whole YieldNodes Legal group with that, not only the admin group, will stay together, at least some parts of it, because I really, and I think no one of us would do it if this would be like a group of people you don't like. So I really enjoy working with people that have similar drive and similar ideas and similar view of the world. And I think in future, there could be possibilities to do things together. But right now, in the first step, I want to have the claims of our group fulfilled by whoever, authorities, YieldNodes, court, whoever, or get the maximum that we can. And then I want to move on with my life and maybe, enjoy some new friends.
Cool. Michael?
Yeah, at this point, I just want everything to be brought to the surface as much as possible, whether that is through law enforcement or through a legal entity, or in this case, both. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want as many people to be made whole as possible. And I know that, many of us were hit very hard by this, but regardless of that, there's always someone that's going to have been hit more by it. And for that reason, it's a situation where I've stated before, at least with me personally, I know that I could be offered a way out that would leave everybody in the dust. And I wouldn't be able to take something like that at this point. At this point, enough work has been done. And I feel confident enough with the steps that we've taken and the progress that we've made that I do believe that a resolution is possible one way or another. Like Levi said, maybe a 50-50 chance of receiving a large portion there, but I think regardless, there's going to be a resolution. And I think regardless, this is ultimately going to be the best way to go about making everybody whole, which is exactly why I continue to put time into it and will continue to put as much time as I'm able to moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And for myself, what I want to see and what I want to achieve is it's very much the same thing as you guys both said. I have not participated in the emergency withdrawals. I have no plan or intention to participate. As I laid out about, what I think about YieldNodes, I believe I was wronged on October 8th and specifically the 11th through the 14th with the freezing of funds. I want those funds to make their way back to the rightful investors. I want that to be done legally and lawfully. I don't personally feel that is currently legal or lawful. So we're letting the legal system and law enforcement figure that part out. Beyond that, I would also agree with Jesus Soldier. I think the group here has done an absolutely amazing job. This is probably one of the coolest groups and grassroots efforts I've ever been a part of. I can't believe the amount of information that was put together and the amount of tools and resources assembled and whatnot. And I'm very much looking forward to the day that this YieldNodes problem is behind us, and to see what friendships and relationships stand after that, and see what we'd like to do next. Because clearly there's a lot of capability here. But for now, yeah, the focus is making sure that justice is brought to where justice is needed, and that any other claims that turn out to be just empty fall away. And if there's any funds to be recovered, that those funds are recovered. So that's what we'll stay focused on for now. And I want to thank you guys for joining, especially Jesus Soldier. It's pretty late for you right now, and I know that you had a busy day, so we'll let you guys go. And for everyone else, check out the website, of course, YieldNodes.legal. Make sure you've signed up there. Make sure that you post your deposit addresses to your account, and watch for updates for the legal process. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.
All right, have a great day, everyone.